Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app, O'Connor and Company.
It's 5:06 on this Thursday morning, 17th day of July in your nation's capital. Thank you for waking up with us and letting us be a part of your routine. Coming up at 6:35, we're going to check in with our friend Dan Schneider at Media Research Center. The Senate, 51-49, said hell no to NPR and PBS last night. One more vote in the House, and it's finally done. Yeah, this is what I voted for. It's 7:05. Paul Kolonowski out of Montgomery County talk about the new gas leaf blower ban because, all the elitist white liberal Democrats really don't like to hear the noise of a leaf blower in the morning. Oh, no, wait. No. It's about climate change. Pedro, right. Grab a rake, will you? I'm trying to get my beauty sleep. We'll talk to Paul about that at 7:05. 8:05, Katie McFarland on Syria and the latest out of the Ukraine war. And then at 8:35, Representative Brandon Gill, who's been a superstar freshman congressman on these rescission cuts. We'll ask him if he thinks the House is going to step up and finally do what we've been dreaming of and defund the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. We'll get into all of that this morning. It's Larry O'Connor with a special Thursday appearance by Julie Gunlock. Good morning, Julie.
Good morning.
And, it's going to be easy goings here at the beginning of the program, Julie, because we've got a special guest, Kurt Schlichter. You know Kurt? He's a lawyer. Retired. He's a colonel in the United States Army, retired. But basically, he doesn't have a job anymore, which gives him more time to write brilliant columns at Town Hall and brilliant books, including his latest, which is released as of now. As of this moment. In fact, for the last 5 hours, it's been a new release at Amazon. Kurt Schlichter, good morning, and thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you, Larry. It is right and proper that you praise me. And it is also wonderful to start out my worldwide media tour with an appearance here at freaking, what is it, 3 a.m., 2 a.m.?
It's 5 a.m. I don't know what time zone you're in, pal.
Not in California, baby.
Listen, we love your. I love your.
And closes down French Laundry.
All right, let me talk about your books. All right, I love your books. Your People's Republic series, of course, it's the Kelly Turnbull series, but that's not what this is. Like last year, you wrote a one-off book after the October 7th attacks called The Attack, which was just a standalone. Dramatic interpretation of what would happen if the jihadis turned their focus here stateside. And it was a huge best-selling book. You've done a similar task here with a book called American Apocalypse, the Second American Civil War. What inspired this book?
Being awake and watching our country circle the drain. Well, look, of course, the inspiration for all my books has to go back about 15 years when you and I were very, very junior in this whole business. And you were doing an internet show every Thursday night with me and this little dude named Ben Shapiro. Remember that? The Hour of 8?
I do.
And we were all working with a guy named Andrew Breitbart.
Yeah, we were all a bunch of little punks.
It was a pretty amazing time. Someday we got to write a book about that. Yeah. But it was, he said, look, conservatives need to stop complaining that you don't have any culture and go out and make it. And that's why I made People's Republic, which is my first novel, which has sold, thousands and thousands of copies. I've now sold hundreds of thousands of copies of books. And American Apocalypse, I think the novel form allows me to talk about things in a way the kind of bow-tied virgin cruise ship conservative. Not saying the cruises are bad because we're going to do a cruise.
Yes. But we know what you mean when you say a cruise ship conservative. People who talk, well, I'll give you a perfect example. David French yesterday was making the conservative case for funding NPR. So that tells you that's who you're talking about.
The guy has also made the conservative case for dudes with their thing hanging out walking through your daughter's locker room.
Yes, for drag queen shows for kindergartners. We're speaking with Kurt Schlichter. He's the author of a brand new book. It's out today. It's American Apocalypse, the Second American Civil War. All right, two things. First, Kurt, just because you're popping in and out a little bit, so I'm guessing you're out on your beautiful beachside terrace. Try to stay in one spot so we don't lose your signal, number one, because I want everyone to hear you. And then number two, tell me about how this comes down, the Second American Civil War. First of all, what triggers this? This is an ideological civil war? Is this a states versus states civil war? What are we talking about here?
Well, this is straight because in the original Civil War, of course, you had region against region, groups of states that were roughly aligned ideologically. That's not how we're divided up now. We are divided. We've all seen those famous maps of who voted for who. And there's America's a big red thing with little blotches of blue. So it's geographically divided in many ways. So if you break something up from state, you both have, you would have red and you would have blue, which are kind of the divisions. Red being essentially Republicans, blue essentially the communist loser scumbag Democrats. And guess which side I'd be on. And it is, it's a lot. But look, I wanted to talk about the most extreme case where people just said the hell with it and start fighting. And I think that's unlikely. But I think it's possible through a combination of stupidity, narcissism, and a lack of knowledge of history. Right now, you have the Democrat Party, which essentially considers anything anyone else does to be illegitimate. They consider Donald Trump and his people illegitimate in the sense they have no right to exercise the powers of government that they won in a fair election. That's kind of a problem in a democracy, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
And you can see that with not only the legal challenges, where you have judges who don't apply the law, who fill out the law like it's some sort of one of those old Mad Libs, to Joe Biden ignoring duly passed immigration laws to the tune of 20 million third world peasants flying over our border for 4 years. How do you have anything like a democracy? Yes, I know it's a republic, but just go with me. If a small group of people can decide, well, you may pass a law, we're just not going to enforce it, and this becomes a slippery slope.
Kurt, we're losing our cities. I mean, you look at the rules of Brendan Johnson, Karen Bass, Michelle Wu, and then you've got this Zohran Mamdani figure in New York who's probably going to win. And you look at the state of those cities; they're a mess. And they want to spread that. I mean, we're really worried about that in Virginia right now. We're worried about Spanberger winning and it sort of California-izing Virginia. Is that part of what you think people are worried about and how the loss of these cities will affect the country as a whole?
Well, the cities are certainly the power base for the left. The problem is the left, if they have a chance to take power again, they're going to do everything they can to keep power forever. And we saw lawfare against Donald Trump. We saw attempts to bankrupt him. We saw attempts to murder him.
Yes.
And many Democrats were, fine with all of it. They were fine. They weren't publicly cheering that. Yeah. Do you think that when Democrats get behind closed doors, they aren't? Damn, I wish he was a better shot.
Right.
No, they were. And this one of the things in this book, it starts out with the assassination of the Republican president and vice president, which leads to a Democrat who nails down power and holds it and refuses to give it up and decides we're going to start jamming down your throat everything we've always dreamed of, and you're going to spend the rest of eternity with our sandal grinding in your face.
All right, Kurt, hold that thought. Kurt's the author of the brand new book, American Apocalypse, the Second American Civil War. Today is the launch day. Last time we had an author on this program on launch day, it was Selena Zito for her book, Butler. Just announced yesterday it was the New York Times #1 bestseller. So everyone in our audience needs to know what happens next. Go to Amazon, buy your version of the book, whether it's Kindle, hardcover, or paperback. and let's shoot this thing through the charts. It's already a #1 new release, but we want to climb it up the ranks as much as possible because it's a compelling story written by a compelling friend of the program. Kurt's going to stay with us a little bit more on his book and the news of the day.
WMAL, making sense of the news. Live from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios. Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
What I like about my friend Kurt Schlichter is that oftentimes he's sort of he's the raging yin to my calm and soothing yang, as it were. He says the things that I wish I said out loud. But he always says what I'm thinking, and he says what most Americans are thinking. And before anybody jumps in and says, "Oh, this is conservative right-wing Civil War porn, and this is inspiring people to want to take up arms against the government," and all that. First of all, it's a novel. It's fiction, all right? So calm down, number one. And number two, I hear the left speculating about this stuff all the time. They're constantly saying, "Oh, you think that you can win a war without us? We've got all the money in our power centers in New York and Los Angeles and San Francisco and Chicago, and we can control the." I mean, Joe Biden was the president, and he would openly speculate about Second Amendment rights, saying, "Oh, you think keeping your gun is going to help you? We've got jet fighters and we've got bombers." So this is something, frankly, that everyone in this country often contemplates. What happens as we see our nation divided ideologically? What happens if that progresses even further? What happens if people in control try to wield that power against the American people? And so Kurt has explored those ideas fictionally in his book, American Apocalypse. And so there's my question, Kurt. Democrat Speaker of the House takes over after an assassination of the president, vice president. He then clamps down on freedoms. But the military, we know people in the military. You were in the military. What happens to the leaders in our armed forces when they are told and ordered to betray the American people?
Well, the same thing that happened in the Civil War. Some of them left. Some of them leave. Some of them stay. Some of them have mixed feelings. And I talk about a number of people who fight on both sides. My goal in this, Larry, was to paint a picture of a world. I was world building, and I wanted to use, a lawyer, Army colonel, all those crazy things. I tried to leverage those to talk about how might things work out? What kind of scenario makes sense? And I got to tell you, it's scary as hell.
Yeah, it is. One other reason why people should buy this book, by the way, is that you've included me in this book.
Oh,
you do have at least one cameo.
Not just, by the way, not just in the acknowledgments. I mean, it was actually you reference my name in the book. Also, by the way, it's funny, you reference also our afternoon drive host Derek Hunter. You reference our friend Vince Colonnese, who does the new. It's like the entire WMAL lineup.
Hello. Not me.
Julie, I'm sure that you're going to be in the next book.
You could be in the
Kurt.
Signal, American Apocalypse 2, Civil War.
Electric Boogaloo.
Electric Boogaloo. The quickening. Look. It's a Kurt Schlichter book, man. There's some fun stuff, and there's some funny stuff in it. I know, it's very serious. How dare you?
No, it's still Kurt. You can't take Kurt out of the book if it's got Kurt's name on it, and there's a lot of humor in it. Dark humor, but humor nonetheless.
Yeah, just a bit. But the thing is, look, I made a novel because I wanted it accessible. I want people to say, holy cow, this character reminds me of me. That's characters in this situation, and this is how it will work. And holy cow, maybe we got to make the Constitution work. But you were right. I am going to get the Bulwark Dispatch femboys fulminating at me. Yeah. They've done it before. I've got a Bill Kristol quote on the back of the book, which is, terrible right-wing garbage. Thank you, Bill.
Appalling, I think, is what he called you. Appalling. Yes. And well, we got to get Jonathan Last and Tim Miller to do a podcast. Are they not going to have you on to promote the book? You do the Tim Miller podcast at Bulwark? That would be that. You never know. They need the ratings. They need the clicks.
Only if I wear a thong.
Hey, Kurt, real fast, because, I love your commentary on the news of the day, and LA's been in the spotlight quite a bit with all the ICE raids and the resistance and the use of the National Guard. We had you on to talk about that.
Yeah.
Are things calming down a little bit there? And what are your neighbors saying about this national tour that Gavin Newsom is on? He's clearly running for president. And the gaslighting and lies he's saying about what's going on in your state, it's driving me nuts. It's got to be even worse for Californians.
Look, Gavin Newsom threatens to make all America California. And the problem is, Larry, we've got a lot of stupid Americans here. And fortunately, we've got Donald Trump on a roll. The guy is just killing it. Yes, there are some people who are going insane about the Epstein thing, but normal people are like, I'm much more concerned and happy that my taxes didn't go up by 20%.
Yeah.
I'm happy that Iran doesn't have a nuclear force anymore. I'm happy that we're no longer funding the delusions of Munchausen mommies that castrate their kids to make their own lives interesting.
I'm sorry. Munchausen mommies.
It's perfect.
We're gonna steal that one. We will steal that one, and we also have to leave it there because we're out of time. But Kurt, thanks for waking up. We were first on your very long list of interviews today promoting your book. I've seen you do this before on your launch day, and it's going to be epic. You'll see a lot of Kurt Schlichter today, but you heard him here first. The book is American Apocalypse: The Second American Civil War. Get it now, and let's make Kurt a happy man. Thank you, Kurt. Thanks for joining us. Good luck. Congrats on the book, my friend.
Yeah,
very
congrats.
good stuff.
Hey, thank you guys for having me, and ahoy.
Ahoy, indeed. It's 5:23.
Coming up, we'll give you an update on that rescission package that's working its way through Congress and cuts, hopefully, to NPR and PBS. Keep it here. It's 5:30.
WMAL-FM, Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station. Making sense of the news. News Talk 105.9. WMAL. News now. Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
It's 5:36 as we are just already off and running on this Thursday morning, direct and live from your nation's capital. Coming up at 6:35, Dan Schneider, Media Research Center, on that rescission package. We'll give you the details on it in just a moment in the vote in the Senate late last night. 7:05 brings us Paul Kolonowski, who's trying to fight that Montgomery County gas leaf blower ban. 8:05, KT McFarland, and 8:35, Representative Brandon Gill, also a leading voice on the rescissions package. It's Larry O'Connor with Julie Gunlock. Jules.
Good morning.
Here on a Thursday, I don't know if you heard, Patrice Onwuka is testifying in the House.
She is.
That's why you two. She was here yesterday. You're here.
We swapped.
We've sort of beaten that horse beyond death. Yesterday, the vote, H.R. 4, the Rescission Act, where Congress is going to take up and the recommendations from the Trump White House to not spend billions and billions of dollars. Here's how the vote went late last night.
On this vote, the yeas are 51, the nays are 48, and on this vote, the bill is amended as passed.
There you go. They didn't even have to drag J.D. Vance's butt there to break a tie. They had the votes, and so now it goes back to the House because they have amended it, as you just heard. But only minor amendments. I presume it will pass the House. We'll ask Dan Schneider of Media Research Center that at 6:35, and then at Representative Brandon Gill coming up at 8:35. But this rescissions package not only eliminates outlandish billions of dollars spent on woke initiatives worldwide through the now defunct USAID, but also it finally defunds the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, something Republicans have been promising to do for decades. Julie, I can't believe this day has finally come.
I know. I mean, I've said this several times on the show that when I came to Washington many decades ago, this was being talked about. This was a goal of the Republicans, and it's never happened. It's like daylight savings time. You know, it's one of those issues that Republicans always claim they're going to deal with, and they never do. So this is quite a moment.
Well, if your senators had anything to say about it, it wouldn't have happened. Both Warner and Kaine voted no on this. And Mark Warner has been doing these selfie car videos lately about sharing his thoughts. Dear Diary, and here he is talking about how horrible this would be for people who live in rural Virginia.
Another awful boundary-breaking act by the Republicans. It's called rescissions. This is where Congress arbitrarily says, okay, budgets we approve, we're now going to take the money back. They started the process yesterday. 3 Republicans said no, let's not throw away Article 1 power. But they brought in good old J.D. Vance to break the tie. So today we'll have amendments, and ultimately, if they're successful, public support for public TV, National Public Radio, gone. Many stations in rural communities are the ones that actually do emergency alerts. And you'd think after the tragedy in Texas, people would think twice.
All right, enough of these lies. Enough of these lies.
Thank you.
First of all, they've lost the argument if this is all they've got left. They don't talk about how vital and important the First Amendment is and free speech and freedom of the press is. Now, they dropped that one now. They've dropped, you're killing Big Bird and you're killing Elmo. They've dropped that one because they know it's a loser. The last thing they've got is, in a national emergency, NPR is the only place people can go for news and information, and everybody knows that's a lie. A couple things here. First of all, he cited the Texas floods. We talked about this yesterday, or Wednesday, I think it was, Julie, or no, yesterday was Wednesday. It's a blur. We talked about this. Media Research Center actually checked this out. We just had a national emergency, the flash floods in Texas that Warner just referenced. Do you know what the NPR radio station in Kerrville, Texas was doing as the floods were occurring?
Sleeping.
They were playing Morning Edition, the D.C.-based national liberal beat up on. They weren't even talking about the floods. The local
it's a lie. It's just
Texas
a lie.
public state. They don't. And by the way, every single radio station is part of the emergency broadcast system. Everyone doesn't immediately turn to NPR. Every radio station puts out an emergency alert.
It's this sort of Luddite position. Larry, I'm traveling in a couple months, and I'm trying to book a hotel, and I find it kind of fascinating. Of course, I'm using, online credit cards and all this stuff. But it's fascinating to me that there's a warning on all these reservations that you can't use cash. So I think about my parents going to it. My dad, wad of cash in his pocket always. He'd go to the hotel and want to pay in cash. Can't do that anymore. I mean, what century are these people living in? And the truth is, it's just a lie. It's just a talking point.
It's just a lie.
It's a lie, and they're using that Texas flood. It's so disgusting. They're using that Texas flood and the death of those little kids to push this narrative, to scare Americans, which is kind of their thing.
And here's the tell, everybody, if you want, because I saw it all day. The CEO of NPR and the CEO of PBS were all over cable news saying this lie, that rural areas rely on our TV stations and our radio stations. These people haven't
been to a rural area their entire lives.
And Chuck Schumer said it from the floor of the Senate. Chris Coons, wait till you hear what Chris Coons had to say. Mark Warner just said it. Here's what's fascinating about that. This debate has been going on for months, and they've had open hearings about this. You would think that these liberal Democrat elitists from New York and D.C. would produce, either for their cable news shows or for the hearings in Washington, they would produce one person.
One
person who could sit there at the hearing table and say, why, yes, Senator Warner, I live in Podunk, Virginia, and we only got one radio station, and it's NPR. I love that Morning Edition.
We never turn it off.
That's the only thing we have. That's all we got. I can tell you that's that. Yeah, Dana Bash, thank you for asking me the question. I don't know who you are, of course, because we don't got no CNN where I live. The only people who are telling me that rural areas have just NPR and PBS to rely on are white liberals who live in Washington and Manhattan. They're the only ones.
Yes, and again, this is part of that insulting narrative they have about people who live in the country.
Just like voter ID. When they say, black people can't get a voter ID, and yet they never produce a single black person to show up and say,
in fact,
correct. I have no ID.
When groups like MRC do man on the street, interviews with black people and say, is it hard to get an ID? The black people are like, that's kind of insulting.
Yes. For decades they've said this, and yet I have never seen them bring me one person to show up and say, I do not have a photo ID. because I am black, or for any reason for that matter. I don't care the reason. Produce the person in one of these hearings to show your work. All right, we got more on the debate that happened yesterday. It's in Chris Coons. You've got to hear Senator Chris Coons of Delaware. That's coming up in a moment. Right now it's 5:44.
Mark Levin, weekdays 6 till 9 on 105.9 WMAL, making sense of the news.
And these cuts to local stations couldn't happen at a worse time, with floods and natural disasters front of mind. When a flood happens, when a tornado touches down, when a hurricane makes landfall, people need immediate, up-to-date alerts to stay safe.
Yes, they do. And number one, that's why they have cell phones with the alerts on them. That's also why they have various other means of communication. And, oh, by the way, that's why they have they act like NPR is the only radio station.
I know.
How many privately held? What about this radio station when there's an emergency? And ironically, the funniest thing is in Texas during the floods, NPR did not go to local news and information. 7 privately held commercial stations in the area did, but NPR did not. They
again, I personally, when there were storms last night, it was kind of scary, by the way.
Yeah.
I grew up in the Midwest where they have these big booming storms because there's no mountains, there's no water, there's nothing to break up these storms. So it's just relentless. And I felt like that's what I was sitting through last night. But at no point, I'm sorry, I know I'm on the radio. I at one point turned on the local television channel to see there is a local station, right, to see if everything's okay. People have choice today. They have variety. And the left seems to have trouble with that, particularly. It's like school choice. It's like anytime you want to give the consumer or Americans more choices that will actually improve the outcomes, right? They'll get better information, more up-to-date information. Democrats really want you to be reliant on the government. I mean, I know I'm saying something that everyone knows, but it's not in every area.
To be clear, on this talking point, though, there are times in a national emergency, where all you're going to have is a battery-powered radio. And you should all have that in your, emergency stash, right? You should have a battery-powered radio with fresh batteries to swap in case of a horrible emergency. But NPR, that's not the NPR was never sold to the American people for this reason. That's not why NPR was created.
Right.
It's not what NPR does. They're not the only thing. We've got private commercial. And in exchange for us being able to broadcast on the broadband, on the FM or AM bands that the government has some regulation over, in exchange, we participate in this emergency broadcast. It is a lie on the face of it. It's a lie. We need this for national emergencies. Now, listen to Morning Becomes Eclectic. It's not the case. All right, so that's number one. The other reason why they were arguing about these, the rescissions package, $9 billion. Think about this controversy, this horrible controversy that the Trump administration has said, you know what, you've overfunded the government. We wish not to spend this money. Please take it back. And they're going nuts about it.
I know.
It's the way any business operates at the end of a fiscal year. Do we need to spend this money? Can we save some money maybe? The other part of the money is the crazy, woke, LGBTQ nonsense that USAID was spending in your name with your money overseas. Democrat Chris Coons, senator from Delaware, as he was making the case for LGBTQ activism in Madagascar and in Iraq, said this.
Jesus wept.
Oh.
Jesus wept. Most of us who grew up in Bible-believing households know this is the shortest verse in all of Scripture, and in some ways, the most powerful. One that haunts me. Jesus wept in John the 11th chapter, 35th verse, because he had come too late, seemingly, to save the life of Lazarus. He wept because someone he knew and loved had died, and it had caused such harm and loss to his family. Today, we are doing something on this floor of this Senate. My Republican colleagues are doing something on the floor of this Senate that I believe would make Jesus weep.
Just like the death of Lazarus in the New Testament.
It is.
You are ripping away from the Iraqi people their woke Sesame Street. And you are ending HIV/AIDS awareness in Madagascar and transgender affirmation in Nicaragua and just making it up now. But that's Jesus wept. I love it. You know, we conservatives are the Bible thumpers who are always injecting our religion into the public discourse. And here's Chris Coons saying Jesus wept. Terry Schilling, by the way, friend of the program, responded to this and said, here's some things I'm pretty sure make Jesus weep. Killing babies so people can have sex whenever they want, or sterilizing and mutilating young children to buy into the lie of LGBT ideology. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that makes Jesus weep. You want to comment on those, Chris Coons? Pastor Coons?
Yeah, you know, the other thing, Larry, I'm seeing the narrative out there is that, oh, this isn't even worth it. It's only 1% of the federal government, right?
Yeah.
If you look at that fact that this $9 billion is only 1% of the federal government and think the answer is just forget it, not let's do more. Are you kidding?
That's right. Yeah.
How does that not energize you to do more?
I heard that from conservatives. This is just it's not even anything. It's just 1%. And I say, hey, you know how you cut the federal budget? 1% at a time. That's how you do it. It's symbolic. They got the vote. We'll see if it passes the House. We'll talk to Dan Schneider about the NPR PBS part of it at 6:35. And at 8:35, Congressman Brandon Gill will give us the temperature of the House. Oh, real fast. One other thing about these great, wonderful people at Corporation for Public Broadcasting. 3 members of the Corporation for Public Broadcasting board were fired by Donald Trump. They immediately sued in April because Trump was exercising his executive powers, constitutional powers. They lost in court, and they still stayed in their positions. They would not leave. Yesterday, acting U.S. Attorney for the district, Jean Pirro, Judge Chenine, says that they're going after them now. And they're going to I don't know how they can go after them.
Can you imagine Judge Chenine coming after you?
Yeah.
That is terrible. They're going to leave.
They will be evicted. She's going to show up and pack your desk. 5:53.